Mr. President, today, the State of the Union Day marks 1,000 days since this Senate has fulfilled its statutory responsibility of passing a budget. This is not a little bitty matter, and it implicates the leadership of the Democratic-controlled Senate and their willingness to address the American people honestly and effectively concerning the very significant financial threats this nation faces. Indeed, President Obama, April 29, 2009, when we last had a budget, said this: "A budget serves as an economic blueprint for the nation's future." That is true. It's not an insignificant document that just has a bunch of numbers. It's a blueprint for the nation's future, and you either have one or you don't. He went on to say a budget is necessary, quote, "to lay a new foundation for growth and to strengthen our economy," close quote. And I believe that's certainly true. Now, once the President's budget has come in, the Senate Budget Committee, by law, is required to report a budget resolution to the Senate by April 1st. Congress is required to complete action on a concurrent resolution on the budget no later than April 15th. It's a challenge. In the past, it's been a real challenge, and people have really worked hard to meet that goal. The leadership in the Senate has the power to set the agenda, and a minority can't call a budget hearing in the Budget Committee, nor can they require a real budget to be brought forth for full debate on the floor of the Senate. Our colleague, who I really respect and like, Senator Conrad, was saying we really don't need a budget today, and apparently they're not going to produce one again this year. The so-called deemed budget is not a real budget, and it's not, and the process used to adopt it is not the kind of process that's legitimate, not the kind of process that's required. In the Budget Act, you must have a committee markup. You must have 50 hours of guaranteed debate on the floor of the Senate. An unlimited number of amendments can be offered. A public, open discussion about the dangers facing this country and how senators are going to deal with it. And they have to vote. And they have to vote multiple times. And the Democratic leadership, supported by Democratic members, did not want to go through that process. And that's why the Democratic leader, Senator Reid, said it's foolish to have a budget. He didn't mean it was foolish for America to have a budget. He meant it was foolish for them to have to vote publicly and be accountable for the serious challenges facing this country. And I think that was a big reason for the shellacking a lot of members of Congress took in the last election. American people want Congress to be accountable. Congress works for them. We're not on our own up here to do whatever we want to. American people are watching us. 40 cents of every dollar we spend is borrowed. Are the American people not legitimately unhappy with us? Why should they be satisfied with Congress? Why should we be looked up to as someone who's leading the country effectively? A real budget would have required a weighing of the spending demands placed on the federal government and the available revenues, and reached a consensus on what activities the governments would pursue and how the government would pay for it, including the amount that would be added to the debt. How much debt are we going to be increasing, and how much will be left to future generations? So the failure of our Democratic leadership in the Senate to seriously and credibly address our mandatory spending programs, which all experts and observers tell us is on an unsustainable course. That's not a frivolous word. They mean it's unsustainable. Contending that the creation of the super committee absolved the Senate of that responsibility to produce a budget is laughable and it's not credible, and I reject that. Our Democratic colleagues wish to pretend to the nation that they have an actual budget plan. And if they want to do that, they must find in their files the secret document they produced last year. And finally, once and for all, make it public. Senator Conrad said, I have a budget. And he said we were going to have a committee markup, and I'm going to present our conference's, the majority's budget plan to the budget committee, where he has a majority of his members. We never saw this budget. He said publicly they had one. Why? Are they ashamed of it? Were they afraid to bring it out? Did not anyone want to see it? We were prepared with our little calculators to see how much taxes were going to increase, how much spending was going to increase, how much debt was going to increase. Were we going to change our debt's trajectory and make the country better, put us on a sounder path? That's what we wanted to know, and we were told we were going to get it. We did not. If they continue to fail to produce a budget, to allow it to be discussed, to show what their plans are for the future, they have forfeited the leadership that they have asked for in the United States Senate. If you can't produce a budget and you don't have the gumption to lay out your plan for the future and have numbers that can be studied and examined, added and subtracted, you can't do that. You're not willing to face up to that responsibility. You don't deserve to lead the United States Senate, because that, at this point in history, I think, is the most significant matter we face. We look forward tonight to the President's State of the Union. I hope that he will do more than do his normal eloquent processes and lay out a real plan, a plan that can be studied, a plan that can be evaluated to put this nation on a sound fiscal course. Because until we do, jobs will not be created. And we've got to have growth. There's a lack of confidence in our economy, and the greatest foundation of that lack of confidence is the debt.